Tessa Blanchard made her controversial TNA return late last year and has been in the company ever since, and has had an interesting 2025 with TNA to say the very least. And if somehow you didn't know and have been living under a rock, Tessa Blanchard is one of the most controversial wrestlers in wrestling today, as in 2020 she would make an unceremonious exit from TNA following a row of allegations of racism and bullying from other wrestlers in the industry, as she was fired from TNA the first time during the pandemic, and her career went sort of stagnant, as her career would pick back up when she started wrestling in Mexico in CMLL, and then she would eventually make her way back to TNA as she defeated Jordynne Grace in a great return match to TNA and a very controversial return match back to TNA. And where we last left off talking about Tessa Blanchard's run in TNA, herself and Cora Jade were both eyeing up Masha Slamovich's Knockouts Championship. And just from that sentence alone, you can probably tell it's been a while since we last checked in with Tessa Blanchard in TNA, so let's do it once again. Welcome back to Keeping Up with Tessa Blanchard. I came up with that intro gimmick on the fly. I hope you liked it. Like the video if you did. But yeah, where we last left off, Tessa Blanchard and Cora Jade were both eyeing up Masha Slamovich, and Tessa Blanchard and Cora Jade would actually do a couple of matches in TNA teaming up with each other. Lei Ying Lee would get involved along the way, and she would start feuding with Tessa Blanchard herself, and it would lead to TNA Sacrifice 2025 when it was Tessa Blanchard versus Lei Ying Lee, and Cora Jade would be the one to challenge Masha Slamovich for the TNA Knockouts Championship, as Tessa Blanchard would defeat Lee in a pretty solid match, and Masha Slamovich would retain her championship against Cora Jade herself. And so this would naturally lead, of course, to Tessa Blanchard now having her turn at Masha Slamovich and her Knockouts Championship, as the feud would kick off and they would meet each other in various multi-person tag matches on Impact, and there would be a mixed tag match at TNA Unbreakable with Joe Hendry and Masha Slamovich teaming up against Frankie Kazarian and Tessa Blanchard in a World Champion and Knockouts Champion against Challengers match, with the champions getting the win. It was a weird match, it was fine I guess, but interestingly along the way Vix Crow, the former Alicia Fox, would get involved in this match, and she would then align herself with Tessa Blanchard on TNA, as this is how Alicia Fox has made her return to wrestling, by making an alliance with Tessa Blanchard in TNA. It's just such random universe mode, random generated slop. And Tessa would finally get to challenge Masha Slamovich for the Knockouts Championship in her first title match since coming back to TNA, and a very big risky move for TNA to be having her in such a big program, as it's been proven time and time again that the fans haven't really forgotten about the things that Tessa Blanchard has been accused of. But in this match, it's a very good one from what I watched. It went just under 14 minutes. It starts off super hot right out the gate with Masha Slamovich taking control early with a big start. Tessa Blanchard though is mostly dominant throughout this match. She's working the limbs and the lower base of Masha Slamovich throughout the match. It was nice to have no interference and just a no BS, just one-on-one singles match, which I feel like is kind of rare for TNA to do. And yeah, Masha Slamovich kicks out of the buzzsaw and then hands Tessa Blanchard her first loss since her TNA return by tapping her out following a good out of nowhere finish, which I love to see. I love a good out of nowhere finish, and yet this was a pretty fine match. Up next for Tessa Blanchard though would be an even more random side quest, but not really random because it's someone who has been a constant nuisance in Tessa Blanchard's TNA return so far, that being Santina Morella's daughter, Ariana Grace, who of course is an NXT wrestler, and Santina Morella is of course the GM of TNA. Tessa Blanchard would constantly try to intimidate Ariana Grace throughout her TNA run, and they would finally have a match at Under Siege. The match went 8 minutes, and it's a very short match in comparison to other Tessa Blanchard pay-per-view matches since her TNA return, and based on reviews, it's not very good. After this, Tessa Blanchard would kind of linger around for a month or two, and it's at this point where I was kind of worried that the rumors of the TNA roster being hesitant to work with Tessa Blanchard was kind of coming into effect, and they were having a hard time booking Tessa Blanchard in matches. But sure enough, that doesn't seem to be as much of a problem anymore anymore, as Tessa Blanchard would go on to be booked in many multiple person matches such as the 8-for-1 match and a Knockouts Contendership Battle Royal. Herself and Victoria Crawford would also team up against the returning Inspiration, and when I saw she had a singles match with Dani Luna on TNA Impact, I actually thought I should go ahead and watch that because I'm a big fan of Dani Luna. And yeah, it was a very solid match, and Tessa Blanchard did of course pick up the victory here, and Dani Luna is someone that TNA should definitely be giving a big singles push. Post-match, Tessa Blanchard and Victoria Crawford would attack Dani Luna, and Indy Hartwell would then make the save, and this was to set up for a match between Tessa and Indy Hartwell at Slammiversary, which would end up being one of the biggest shows for TNA in a very, very long time, as it's one of their most attended events in years. There was extra hype around the event due to the NXT-TNA partnership and many matches that had been announced and many expected surprises on the show, but one surprise from the show was that the Indy Hartwell-Tessa Blanchard match on Slammiversary was quite a train wreck. I genuinely thought the match would have been a lot better than it was, but it was not good at all. So when I tuned into this match, I was first surprised to hear that there were chants for "Let's go Tessa" during this match. That was very surprising to hear, so maybe there's some sort of progress with the crowd being accepting towards her, but at the same time, there was still the "She's a Racist" chants during this match, and they were probably louder than the "Let's go Tessa" chants, so no, not very good.
For Indy Hartwell, you've listened to her over the past several weeks. I told you she entered.
Tessa Blanchard hits the top rope magnum for a huge near fall as Indy Hartwell surprisingly kicks out, and then Indy Hartwell would go on to get the win in a huge victory here against Tessa Blanchard, and maybe a surprising one, I'm not really sure, it's probably 50-50 to be fair. And post-match, of course, Tessa Blanchard is completely crashing out. She attacks Hartwell post-match, and then she attacks Gia Miller, who is the ringside interviewer for TNA, who is not a wrestler at all, a very vicious attack as she scrapes her head across the steel steps, and Tessa Blanchard would reap the consequences backstage as she was suspended by general manager Santina Marella, who ordered security to drag her out the building. And yeah, Tessa Blanchard has been off TNA TV since, as she is kayfabe indefinitely suspended. When she does return, who knows, but it'll happen eventually, I guess. She's most definitely not out of the company, and I've seen many people theorizing that this was to write her off from TNA to put her into NXT and have her make an NXT appearance or WWE, but it's been a few weeks since Slammiversary and nothing has happened yet, so I'm hopefully assuming that nothing is going to happen and Tessa Blanchard isn't going to appear in WWE or NXT, but Brock Lesnar just came back, so anything is possible clearly. And with JC Jane now holding the TNA Knockouts Championships, there's definitely a chance that more TNA wrestlers are going to appear in NXT. Maybe Tessa Blanchard is one, touch wood, hopefully not. Reports are stating though that it does look as though she is actually going to be having an in-ring program with Gia Miller, the interviewer she attacked, who is going to be making her TNA in-ring debut, so good for Gia, that's pretty cool. But it does also kind of reek as though Tessa Blanchard and TNA are having to scrape the barrel for opponents for Tessa Blanchard because nobody wants to work with her. But yeah, all in all, since I last checked in with Tessa Blanchard in TNA, there is still very much the same problem. Tessa Blanchard is a very good in-ring worker, that is undeniable. She's a good heel as well. The heel work she does in the ring is so good. However, the heat that she garners is not good, because the heel heat she garners is the "She's a Racist" chants, and TNA are simply just unable to sell that as heel heat because it's just gonna make them look bad. Like I said before, there were "Let's go Tessa" chants during Slammiversary, so it does seem as though there is some sort of public sentiment turning for Tessa, maybe within the TNA crowd, as they're slowly just accepting that she's part of the show now, maybe. But the fact that there is still "She's a Racist" chants still present during these shows and during these matches, and it hasn't changed at all, if anything they've only got louder, is a big problem for TNA still, and maybe they've taken her off TNA to kind of get away from that for a bit, maybe. I don't even know anymore. But all in all, the Tessa Blanchard TNA return continues, and we'll check back in when she returns from her indefinite suspension, I am sure. If you did enjoy this one, then be sure to smash the like button, subscribe, notifications on so you never miss a video. I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye, and keep on rolling.